What's happening? Thanks for joining me on this Wednesday afternoon. It is much appreciated. Before we get started, to talk about Brandon Aiyuk and tomorrow night's preseason game against the Carolina Panthers. Before we get to that, don't forget and don't hesitate. Spend 1 second of your time to give us that thumbs up, like, also comment. That helps the algorithm at YouTube. So like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Pods, rate and review. We'll get to preseason game number 1 in a bit, but we start with Aiyuk. And obviously, we all know by now, Brandon Aiyuk will reportedly not be a Patriot. Adam Schefter had a post last night that was pretty interesting. He posted, after inquiring about Aiyuk's availability, the Patriots have decided not to explore any further trade possibilities with the 49ers. Patriots are excited about their young receivers and want to focus on them. Let me focus on Schefter's tweet first and foremost. Number 1, the Patriots did not, and I repeat, the Patriots did not bow out of these talks because of their young wide receivers. That is a little bit of spin. It's borderline ridiculous. If the Patriots were so excited and so sold that their young wide receivers could do the job, they would not be going out there and hunting for Brandon Aiyuk. They would not be putting the money on the table that they put on the table. They would not be willing to trade Kendrick Bourne and at least one draft pick, if not multiple draft picks. So no, the Patriots did not bow out of this race because they woke up yesterday and realized they had Jalen Polk and Javon Baker on the roster. That's not what happened, okay? So I'm not buying that part of it. Now, it is true. It's not mutually exclusive. We can say that they didn't bow out of this race for Aiyuk because of their young wide receivers, but also believe that they do legitimately have some excitement about their young wide receivers. I believe they're excited about those guys. They drafted those guys. So I do think they're excited about Jalen Polk and how he could help things. They are excited about Javon Baker, how he can help things. I'm sure they're excited about Pop Douglas and what he's done at camp. So both things can be true here. You can be excited about your young wide receivers, but not have that be the reason why you walked away from the Aiyuk talks. Okay? So that's how I feel. You might disagree. Let's have some major takeaways. Some major takeaways from the Aiyuk drama, the Aiyuk ordeal, whatever we want to call it. Number 1, I don't believe this is on Elliott Wolf. And I've listened to the radio today. At times, unfortunately, I've listened to the radio today, and I understand that some people believe that Elliott Wolf dropped the ball, that he fumbled this, no pun intended, right? That he messed up, he failed. This is all on Elliott Wolf. I could not disagree with that notion any more than I do. If you're Elliott Wolf, you know what you can do. You can control the controllables. I've said this from the very beginning of my radio career. You cannot force other teams. You can't force players to say yes. Not in all cases. I understand some people say, oh, Nick, just give him the most money. You give him the most money, he's going to have to say yes. There are issues that go along with that. And that's a very long and detailed back and forth conversation that we can have some other day because we got a lot to get to today. But what Elliott Wolf can do is control the controllables. And what does that mean? Elliott Wolf can only control the amount of money he puts on the table. He can only control the trade offer that he gives to the Niners via a phone call. That's the only thing he can do. He can't control how Aiyuk feels about his team. He can't control how many social media butterflies are flying around and passing judgment on everything that happens. He can only control the controllables. And here's what we know. If you're Elliott Wolf, the thing that you have to do if you want Aiyuk, if you want your best chance at Aiyuk, you have to offer the most money and you have to offer the 49ers a trade package that they are willing to accept. Elliott Wolf did both of those things, folks. He did both of those things. He held his end of the bargain. He took care of it. He took care of his side. Let's talk about the money. I've heard a lot of things about the money. Let's dive into the money. Josina Anderson says that the Patriots were ready to offer or did offer Brandon Aiyuk in excess of $28.5 million a year. $28.5 million a year in excess of. I've heard people, I've seen this on Twitter. Some people take that as, oh, well, they offered Brandon Aiyuk $28.5 million. No. They're misunderstanding the term in excess of. When you say in excess of, you mean literally, this is the definition, more than a particular amount. So when you say in excess of $28.5 million a year, I read that as the Patriots were willing to give more than $28.5 million a year to Aiyuk. That's the first thing. The second thing, Mike Reese, who just put Felger Maz in a body bag. Reese last night on ESPN said that the Patriots were being aggressive. And he said during his report that the Patriots were willing to pay top 5 wide receiver money to Aiyuk. Top 5 money is about $30 million a year. Okay, so Josina Anderson says they were willing to pay in excess of, which means more than a particular amount. They were willing to pay more than $28.5 million a year. Mike Reese just said on Felger and Maz that he was told different numbers, but he thinks it's higher than 28.5. He was told 30 million by at least one other person, and he was actually told upwards of 32 million a year. That's what Mike Reese was told. And Reese said he made it clear on the radio show just a few moments ago, he is not speaking for the Patriots. He did not get that information from the team. To put a bow on it, this money thing, Matt Mayoko of NBC Sports Bay Area, very plugged in on the West Coast. Mayoko, in his story this morning, he wrote the following: the Patriots were prepared to offer the largest deal of the teams who pursued Aiyuk. I'll say it again, because I keep hearing, well, if you're the Patriots and you're struggling, you're having a tough time bringing people in, you've got to pay more than other teams are willing to pay. Read the report from Mayoko. If you're saying that, read what has been reported, because what Mayoko reported today was that the Patriots, again, I'll read it directly from his story, the Patriots were prepared to offer the largest deal of the teams who pursued Aiyuk. The Patriots were willing to pay more money than anyone else in this field. And Aiyuk's agent knew it. Two sources told NBC Sports Bay Area that New England's proposal topped $30 million a year. You have two of the most respected reporters, Mike Reese from here in New England and Mayoko out in the Bay Area. Both of those highly respected reporters are telling you that multiple sources told them that the Patriots were willing to pay more than $30 million a year to Aiyuk. That's what's reported. There isn't much of a mystery here. We'll get to the guaranteed money, because I know people say, oh, Nick, but what about the guarantees? That's another fun dance people like to have. Let me just say this. The Patriots this offseason, I'm not talking about last year. I'm not talking about the 20 years of Bill Bell. I'm talking about this offseason. This offseason, the Patriots are in top 10. They're in the top 10 across the NFL in guaranteed money handed out this offseason. They're in the top 10 in fully guaranteed money handed out this offseason. They are in the top 10 when it comes to average annual value of contracts. I think they're in the top 5 when it comes to AAV handed out this offseason. This offseason, the Patriots have been absolutely willing to give as much money guaranteed that is needed to bring the player in, aside from one guy who we'll get to right now, and that's Calvin Ridley. The Patriots were willing to pay more money guaranteed to Calvin Ridley than his own team wanted to give him, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just because you have the money and you can pay the guaranteed money doesn't mean that you bend over backwards and you do something irresponsible to pay a player. The Patriots decided, they drew the line in the sand that they were not going to pay Calvin Ridley $46.5, $47 million guaranteed. They drew the line at $40 million guaranteed, which at the time made Ridley a top 5 paid wide receiver. When everybody would tell you that Calvin Ridley is not even a top 10 guy. The Patriots, Elliott Wolf, they were willing to pay him as a top 5 wide receiver. They were willing to overpay. Tennessee was willing to overpay even more and got outrageous. I don't have an issue with them walking away on Calvin Ridley. But think of it this way. If they were willing to offer Calvin Ridley $40 million guaranteed, which would have made him a top, 5, 6, 7 receiver in the NFL. I think it would have been top 5 at the time of the deal. I don't remember off the top of my head because Justin Jefferson's contract came up. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown signed after. So there were contracts done, bigger contracts done after Calvin Ridley's contract was done. But at the time when that offer was on the table from the Patriots, they were willing to pay Ridley about top 5 money. Let me ask you this. Riddle me this. If they were willing to pay Calvin Ridley top 5 wide receiver guaranteed money, what do you think they were willing to pay Brandon Aiyuk in guaranteed money? What do you think? I would think that their offer, as has been reported by Mike Reese and Matt Mayoko, was near the tippity top of the offers. As a matter of fact, they would tell you it was at the tippity top of the offers. So you just want to offer him more money just to be nice? Is that how negotiations go? Let me ask you this. When you go to a car dealership and you want to buy a car, if you can get that car for $40,000, do you go up to the car dealer and say, you know what, sir? You know what, ma'am? I can get this car for $40,000, but I'm going to give you 50 grand for it just because I like the car. Just because I like the car that much. Does that make any sense? Is that smart business? I know it's a sport. I know we're fans. I know we love it. But at the end of the day, this is a business. Simple. Is that a smart business decision to just keep forking money over when you know you have the highest offer on the table? Does that make any sense to you? I would also ask you, if the Patriots weren't willing to pay the money, why in the world were they having these conversations with Aiyuk's agent? Why have they been chasing this guy since February/March? If they weren't willing to pay the money, guess what? Aiyuk's agents, the San Francisco 49ers, they would not even have entertained the conversation with the Patriots. It's like going to a club, right? You got to pay money to get into the club. You're not getting into that club unless you're willing to drop the $50, $100, whatever it is. You're not getting into this conversation. You're not getting into the Brandon Aiyuk club, so to speak, without understanding that you've got to give him X amount guaranteed and X per year. That's how you get into the conversation. So let's use some deductive reasoning, folks. We all have that ability, right? I hope so. So the money is the money. Just went through that. Let me talk about the trade itself because, again, the only thing Elliott Wolf can do is control the controllables. We know that Elliott Wolf offered the most money that was offered to Brandon Aiyuk. We also know, due to the reporting, that the San Francisco 49ers had accepted the parameters of the trade that the Patriots wanted to pull. And reportedly, it was Kendrick Bourne, a 2025 second-round pick, and maybe another pick to go along with that. San Francisco said, yes, we will trade you Brandon Aiyuk for what you just offered. So Elliott Wolf put a trade offer on the table that was accepted by the other team. Check. Elliott Wolf put the most money on the table for Brandon Aiyuk amongst all the other teams that we're talking. Check. This is not on Elliott Wolf. I'm not trying to be a do-boy. I'm not trying to carry his water. I'm not being a homer. What I am doing is I'm spitting the truth. This is what's been reported. Elliott Wolf put an offer on the table to the Niners that they accepted. He then spoke to the agents of Aiyuk and put the biggest financial offer on the table for the wide receiver. What else? What else would you like Elliott Wolf to do? What else? Was Elliott Wolf supposed to put more into the trade? He satisfied the Niners. He satisfied San Francisco. That's his job. He satisfied San Francisco with the offer. What GM, what president of football operations, what executive vice president of player personnel, whatever the title is, you tell me which GM, which VP, which president of football operations would include more in an offer when the initial offer was okayed. Who does that? Do you think that happens in trades? Do you think hey, I'm going to offer you a second and a third round pick for player X. Okay, we take it. Hold on, wait. You know what? I'll throw another third round pick into it. Let's add another pick to that. 2026. Who does that? Nobody does it. Your job, your mission is to make sure that you satisfy the desire of the other team. Patriots did that. And they offered the most money to Aiyuk than any other team was willing to offer him. There's no need to second guess. There's no need to second guess the money. There's no need to second guess the trade offer. Elliott Wolf did his job. Here's the truth. Brandon Aiyuk did not want to be here. End of story. Brandon Aiyuk did not want to be a Patriot. Simple. It might be too simple for people who are trying to cook up some conspiracy theories or want to build up a controversy, but that's what happened. Elliott Wolf offered the trade. It was accepted. He offered the most money. Everything would have been fine. Brandon Aiyuk said, I don't want to go. And this isn't hindsight. This isn't revisionist history, because what I would love for all of you to do, if you didn't catch the podcast on Monday, you can go to the channel while you like, comment, and subscribe to help build this community. Again, like, comment, subscribe. That's how you help me. If you love the content, even if you like the content, the only way we're going to build this is with your help. Doesn't cost you a dime. Like, comment, subscribe, rate and review, Spotify, Apple Pods. You can go back to that podcast on Monday. And I said it then. You can't force the player to say yes. As hard as you want them to say yes, you cannot force them to say yes. Unfortunately, Elliott Wolf is not going to fly across the country and put the proverbial gun to the head of Aiyuk and say, you're going to be a Patriot. And you're not going to make this trade unless Aiyuk signs on the dotted line. Because unless you get a long-term commitment from the player, it is foolish. It is foolish to trade assets away to somebody who doesn't want to commit to you. This is a commitment. Men, women, would you continuously dump money into your significant other if you felt that there was no commitment there? Maybe some of you have, maybe some of you still do, maybe some of you would. That's unfortunate. I'm going to give you some life advice. If there's no commitment from the other side, then stop spending money. Aiyuk was not willing to commit. He wasn't willing to get on his knee or accept you on your knee saying, will you marry me? Aiyuk didn't want to be here. He did not want to be here. Another point. I think we should all appreciate the fact that this new regime actually understands that you need to have offense to win football games in 2024. They signed Mike Onwenu to a top-of-the-market deal. They gave Ramondre Stevenson his extension. They went after Calvin Ridley. They drafted, 7 out of their 8 picks, 6 out of their 7 picks were offensive players. They just offered the most money to Aiyuk and were willing to give a deal, willing to give up assets to San Francisco that they accepted to have that deal work out. They have been going after offense. They understand it. They get it. They were handed a bag of crap. And it's really tough to sell people. Really tough to sell people to come here when you're missing as much as you're missing coming off of a 4-win season. And then you don't have all the answers to the problems. We all understand that. It's a rebuild. This is why it's difficult. Remember when Tom Brady was here? You remember when you would watch these other teams and you would look at these other teams' off seasons and we would chuckle? Imagine being that team. Imagine being that team. They can't get anybody to say yes. The Patriots are now that team. That's the unfortunate truth. And they're not that team because of Elliott Wolf or Gerard Mayo. Those two guys just took over. They took over an absolute mess on the offensive side of the football. The Patriots are those other teams now. They're coming off of a 4-win season. They just had the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. Even if you offer a lot of money, sometimes, guess what? It just doesn't matter. Because players look at you and they go, no thanks. Not interested. And that's what Aiyuk did to the Patriots. The Patriots were leveraged in this situation. The leaks, right? All the leaks. Follow the leaks. I tweeted this out on Monday and some people pushed back at me. I'm not sure why they pushed back. Probably because it's Twitter and it's 2024. That's what people do. But follow the leaks. The leaks, to me, were to drive up the trade offers. They were to drive up the price for the Pittsburgh Steelers, where Aiyuk really wants to go. Aiyuk will be a Steeler or he will be a 49er. I think that is clear by now. And if you believe some of the people who have been ahead of this story, and I'm not talking about the NFL insiders on your television, I'm talking about guys like Pretty Ricky. If you follow them on Twitter, Pretty Ricky's been all over this thing from the very beginning. Aiyuk himself a couple of months ago said on Ryan Clark's podcast that if he wasn't going to play for San Francisco, he wanted to play for the Commanders and the Steelers, or the Steelers. Commanders, they pulled themselves out of the talks. For whatever reason, Washington did not want to get involved. It's not happenstance. This is not a coincidence. This is a strategy by Brandon Aiyuk. And it's working. He's utilizing his old-in so he can get the most money possible out of the Steelers, and he could end up going to Pittsburgh. That's what he's doing, folks. This whole thing started months ago. Right after the Super Bowl, his brother was posting on social media that it was pretty much the last days of Aiyuk in San Francisco. This is a concerted strategic effort for him to go where he wants to go, even though he's not a free agent. That's what's playing out. And nobody is going to get in the way of that. Not the Patriots, not the Browns, not any other team that Aiyuk doesn't want to go to. No matter how much money you're willing to fork over, no matter what you're willing to trade, it's not going to matter. Because he's not going to sign a long-term deal. And if he's not willing to sign a long-term deal, it is idiotic to part with any pieces. Idiotic. The Patriots were leveraged. Try to drive up that money. Try to drive up the trade offers. Angle your way to Pittsburgh. That's it. Aiyuk wants Pittsburgh. He said it months ago. Pretty Ricky's been all over it. You remember what Schefter said? I talked about this. Schefter goes on the Pat McAfee show, and he reminded everybody, you can offer as much money as you want to offer, but if he doesn't want to sign, it doesn't matter. He ultimately has say. He does have some leverage with this situation. He doesn't have leverage on San Francisco, so to speak, because they own his contract rights. But he has leverage with all the other teams because he can look at Cleveland and say, I'm not signing. He can look at the Patriots and say, I'm not signing. So he does have say. He does have say. Why not New England, Nick? Why not New England? It's where you are. 4-win team last year. You have a first-time head coach because people say, why Pittsburgh and not New England? Pittsburgh won 10 games last year. It might have been an ugly-ass 10 wins. Woo! Woo! Kenny Pickett. Wasn't a lot of fun to watch that team play. But they won 10 games. You won 4. Not a math major. I talk into a microphone for a living, but that's more than 2 times the amount of wins that you had last year. They were more than 2 times better than you. They have Mike Tomlin, who's been there forever. Players love to play for him. You have Gerard Mayo, first-time head coach. Nobody knows what Mayo's going to be. Russell Wilson, I think, is washed. But the Patriots, they have Jacoby Brissett. They have Drake May. There are some unknowns there. I'm high on Drake May. I can't guarantee you he's going to work out. First-time head coach, unknown at quarterback for this year, especially. Coming off of a 4-win season. Alex Van Pelt has not called plays on a week-to-week basis since 2009. Massachusetts taxes absolutely suck. That doesn't help. Being in the top 10 market with media that go bananas. You think players are seeing this back and forth between Matthew Judon and Gresham Fourier? You think some guys are seeing the tit for tat? You think some of these guys are seeing what's being said? I think so. So now you've got to come back and you've got to say, okay, well, now I got to deal with some of the media. If we're going to jump in on this thing and I'm going to join this 4-win team from last year, if we start off slow, I'm going to get killed for it. There's a reason why Elliott Wolf continues to talk about a draft and develop foundation. Yes, he's trying to go out there and get pieces to help the draft and development of this football team. But you've got to draft and develop because coming off of a 4-win year, you have a lot of things going against you, which is another reason why you have brought back some of the good players that you have. People are bitching about keeping the players and retaining the players from last year's team. Even the good players, they're bitching about it. They're complaining. They're crying about it. You see how hard it is for the Patriots to go out there in free agency or to go out there and get somebody like Brandon Aiyuk. You see it with your own eyes. That's why the Patriots are keeping their good players. What do you want them to lose more good players to go out there in free agency and be even less successful? What are we doing? There's no logic. There's no logic to that. All right. Whew. I hope you enjoyed that. Get that off my chest. I got to work on 98.5 tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's going to be fun. This face for radio will be on TV on NBC Sports Boston with my guy Tim McCone. And I'm going to go really all in tomorrow on a bunch of stuff. Can't wait for that to happen. But I hope you enjoyed that, I don't know what it was, 28 minutes or so of the ranting and raving. If you did enjoy it, give us that like, thumbs up. You can like us on YouTube. That helps beat the algorithm. You can help us on Facebook. I see some thumbs from Facebook. I appreciate you. You can help us on Twitter as well by liking it. So like, comments, all the comments. If you want to send the comments, that helps. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. All right, let's fly through some preseason game 1 preview stuff, shall we? Let's first start here. Gerard Mayo, what I'm looking for tomorrow night. Is Gerard Mayo in command when he's on the sidelines, right? Does he have the headset on? Is he barking instructions? How involved is he? How active is he? Or is he going to be truly a CEO on the sideline and just let things develop? So how busy is he on the sidelines? How aggressive is he? Does he give us an idea of how he's going to handle, let's say, 4th and short, if it's on the other team's 43-yard line? Is he going for that? Or is he punting? So do we get an idea of how aggressive he's going to be? How about his communication with the staff? How's he communicating with his staff? Is he talking to them a lot? Is he letting them do their jobs? You know, is he just kind of chilling and watching and enjoying the show? So how's the operation running, right? Pre-snap penalties, stuff like that. Is it a clean operation? So I'll start with that. Then I'll move to quarterbacks. How much does Jacoby Brissett play tomorrow night? How much should he play? What should they do? I mean, if you play him too much in the preseason and he ends up getting hurt, God forbid, now what do? Are you stuck with playing Bailey Zappi because you don't want to rush Milton or Drake May out there? I'm talking about regular season. But how much do you play Brissett in the preseason because it's risk versus reward. He's clearly the first quarterback right now. That could change 3 weeks from now, but right now he's clearly QB1. I think he's going to get a series or two, and then he's going to be done for the night. Which leads us to Drake May. How much playing time does Drake get? He needs reps. He needs live game reps. So how much is he going to play tomorrow night? What's going to happen, right? He needs those reps. Does he get any chance with the first unit? Does he get any chance with the first offensive line in front of him? Or is this strictly Brissett out, one's out, May out there with the twos? If the offensive line, if he's playing in front of the second offensive line, and if you see May running around like a chicken with his head cut off because the front five can't block, then how much does that impact his playing time? If you go into tomorrow night and you're thinking Drake May is going to play a quarter or 2 quarters, what happens if the offensive line's a train wreck in front of him? Do you then pull back and say, all right, yeah, I know he needs reps, but we can't have him out there right now? How do you balance that if you're Gerard Mayo? I think Drake May will end up playing a quarter at least, maybe a quarter and a half. He could even play a full half of football, but I think what you'll see is Brissett gets a couple of series, maybe even just one series, and then they go to May. May might get through, halftime, play the first series of halftime, and then you've got either Zappe or Milton. I would guess Zappe comes in after that, and then Joe Milton. Speaking of Joe Milton, this is going to be like, and I'm not saying he takes them, so don't mistake my words. Joe Milton is going to be like Malik Cunningham on steroids. You remember Malik Cunningham? Of course you do. Last year, I think it was against Houston in the preseason when he runs in that touchdown and fans are going crazy and the media is like, who is this guy? What's happening? What's going on? He's got to play. Wide receiver or quarterback. What's he going to do? Remember that? Well, Joe Milton's going to be like that on steroids because he is the perfect example of the raw potential, right? The preseason hero, the dude who's got all the potential and the skill, right? The talent, maybe not the management of the game. Maybe will never work out, but he's got some raw ability. He's got the super strong arm, the Michael Bishops from back in the day. Like Joe Milton is going to be like a preseason hero. Watch. He's going to get out there tomorrow night. He's going to play against the threes. He might end up having like a spectacular play and people are going to lose their minds. I'm warning you right now. Offensive line. This is a huge deal tomorrow night. You can learn things from the preseason. Offensive line's a big deal. Sidy Sow yesterday at practice did not participate in the 11-on-11s. Is Sow going to be out there tomorrow night? He has been this team from what I've seen. I went to 4 padded practices. From what I have seen, Sidy Sow is the second best offensive lineman on this team right now, behind Owenu. Owenu's been a monster. So is Sidy Sow going to be out there tomorrow night? We'll see. Chuks Okorafor, who has been a starting tackle on this offensive line when he's been out there, whether it's the left side or the right side. Okorafor has missed 3 or 4 straight practices. Is he going to be out there? Does David Andrews play? Or do they sit Andrews because he's been in the league for so long, they know what he can do and they're not worried about it? I think he's going to play because the center has a lot more responsibility with this scheme than he's had in prior years. And I think you want to get some, some experience under the belt. So I think Andrews will be out there at least for a series. But so it's all this, shuffling in front. Vidarian Lowe has been playing left tackle the last 4 or 5 practices. I would imagine he's going to be out there again at left tackle. Does that change? We'll see. So the offensive line, that shuffling, that juggling act, it'd be very interesting. I would be ready for the run. I would anticipate lots of running the football tomorrow night. It's important for the offense. Alex Van Pelt has stated they're going to run the ball. Mayo has stated they're going to run the ball. Jalen Polk came out and spoke to the media last week and said that they're going to be a running football team. They're going to want to establish that. They want to get their offensive line moving because this is a different scheme, right? They want to get them to the second level, sustaining their blocks, all of that stuff, make sure they're all on the same page. You also want to alleviate some of the pressure on the quarterbacks if your offensive line is not pass protecting as well as you hope they would. So I would be ready for a lot of running plays tomorrow night. Which skill players play? Will Ramondre Stevenson be out there? If so, how long will he be out there for? How much do you play Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper? 2 veterans, been around for a while. Tyquan Thornton says he's dealing with a soft tissue issue. Is Thornton going to play tomorrow night? Feels like he needs to play, right? He's not really in the, he's not really in the situation where he could just take preseason games off if he's physically able to get out there. So Tyquan Thornton, does he go out there? Pop Douglas is interesting to me. Pop has been in the red no contact jersey throughout camp. I don't think it's injury related because he's out there, he's running, he's catching the football. He looks physically capable of playing the position. I said this on Monday. I still feel this way. I feel like Pop Douglas is being protected. He's being managed because he's not a big guy. He's got a concussion history. So they're making sure he's not taking unnecessary hits at practice. Does that bleed into the preseason? Does Pop sit tomorrow night? We'll see. Let's talk defense. Is Matthew Judon out there? And if he's out there, how much does he play? Does he go out there and play a single snap and then sit down? He was at practice yesterday. He was talking to a trainer, according to Mike Giardi. Then he took his helmet off, and he wasn't really involved for the rest of the practice. So is Judon out there, or does Judon decide that he's not going to play? Does the team decide he's not going to play? Does he play a snap and then move on? I don't know. No clue. Is he healthy? Not sure. Another guy asking whether or not he's healthy is a worthwhile exercise is Jawan Bentley. And Greg Bedard, my buddy, was all over this yesterday on the Twitter machine. He said that Bentley looked like he got hurt. He got dinged. There were trainers looking at him. They were talking an awful lot to Bentley. Then those trainers called over the team doctor, which is usually not the best sign. We don't know what's going on. Haven't heard anything. But he was visibly shaken up, and then the doctor comes over, and he did not go back into that practice. So is Bentley out there? Is he playing tomorrow night? Of course, Bentley wears the green dot. If Bentley's not out there wearing the green dot, who wears the dot? Might be Jelani Tavai, might be Jabril Peppers. Safety. Look at the safety spot. There's some, good amount of juggling going on at safety. Marcus Jones has not practiced for several practices now in a row. Are we going to have Marcus Jones out there at all? I would not expect it. Jonathan Jones did not practice yesterday. Was that a day off? Was it scheduled? Is there something wrong? Is there something wrong where it will take him out of tomorrow night's game? If you don't have Marcus Jones and you don't have Jonathan Jones, now you look at safety because Jonathan Jones has played some safety at practice. Marcus Jones has played some safety at practice. If both of those guys are unable to go tomorrow night, you're going to see a lot of Jalen Hawkins to start this game. Hawkins has a chance to make this roster. He's been brought up by Mayo, so keep an eye on him. Del Pettis, the undrafted free agent, seems to be picking up momentum at practice, at camp. I would expect him to get some snaps tomorrow night. How does Pettis look? And, of course, if Jonathan Jones can't play tomorrow night, what do you do at cornerback 2? What do you do opposite of Christian Gonzalez? So Alex Austin has not been as good at camp as he was at minicamp. Azizi Hearn has gotten some snaps. Marco Wilson is another guy. Isaiah Bolden is another guy. Will Marcellus Dial, the only defensive draft pick, will Marcellus Dial get a look earlier than we would expect? Sean Wade has been out there during this camp. So how does that second cornerback spot shake out across from Gonzo? Who's playing? How many snaps are they getting? What's the rotation look like? Something to keep an eye on. Few other guys I want to talk about. The rookie wide receivers, obviously. There's going to be a lot of excitement about Polk and Baker. It's going to be great to see them out there playing actual football games. What do? For a lot of people, this is the first time they're going to see them on a field. How do they look? Polk has been steady during camp. Baker has had some big-time flashes, but he's also been inconsistent. So how do those guys look tomorrow night? That'll be part of the fun. Jaheim Bell finally got to practice. He finally got back to practice yesterday. He had missed a few practices. He was dinged up. He was back out there yesterday, had a nice connection with Drake May on the 7-on-7s. Is Jaheim Bell going to be out there? And how involved does he get? I would like to see him catch a couple of footballs tomorrow night, get him working a little bit. Keion White, the Matthew Judon situation, as we continue to follow that drama. If Judon and the Patriots can't figure it out, they're going to lean heavily on Keion White. What does White do tomorrow night? This is his opportunity to push for a starting gig. So what does White do? Speaking of pass rush, Joshua Uche. What does Joshua Uche do? Is he out there playing? He's pretty much not been out there much at all, if at all. And when he was out there at minicamp, out there in early camp, he really didn't do much. So, is there an injury situation with Uche? Is he just not in the rotation because he hasn't been good enough? So how much will Uche play and how will he look? And then the kickers. We got to talk about some kickers. Joey Sly, Chad Ryland. Ryland so far at camp, he's winning the battle so far. But you've got the Sly versus Ryland. If you've got opportunities for field goals, do those guys make them? I think Patriots fans want to see Chad Ryland knock down a couple of field goals during this preseason so they can feel maybe a little bit more confident in what they have there. Let's jump to a super chat from McDowell's Human Resources Department. I just want us to be somewhat competitive and enjoyable to watch this season. Last season was a dumpster fire. I do think, I said this on 98.5 when I hosted on Sunday. I feel differently than some other people watching this camp. So, it is what it is with that. But, when you watch this team, I do think, I'm going to move this. Well, it looks a little bit larger than usual or in a different spot. But I do think they'll be more competitive than some people believe. I'm not telling you they're going to win 8, 9, 10 games, right? I want to watch the preseason. I want to watch the joint practice that's in 6 days against Philadelphia. I don't give you the W's and the L's in August. I don't do it. I wait until, later on. So what I will say, though, is I do think on a basic level, if they're healthy, that this team will compete. They'll be competitive. I also think their offense will be better than it was last year. I think their offense will be more fun to watch than it was last year. I mean, frankly, how could it be worse? So I do think, I think this season, there'll be more to watch and be more involved with, right? We'll have the Drake May storyline. When does Drake May get out there? Does he get out there? We'll have the 2 rookie wide receivers to watch their development, which I think will be fun. Jaheim Bell, if he gets out there, you'll be able to watch him. I think Antonio Gibson adds a different dynamic to this offense. He's going to be fun to watch. And I think defensively, depending on what happens with Judon and Barmore, but defensively, they should be good. Now, if you tell me Barmore's out for the year, which he might be, if Barmore's out for the year and, Judon, this situation doesn't get resolved and he's gone or whatever, we can reevaluate at that point. But I do think this team will be competitive, and I do think the offense will be better and more fun to watch. Saw some of the trickeration broken out on Monday's practice. Some trickery from Alex Van Pelt. So they got some stuff in the bag. I think they'll be better, and they'll be more fun to watch. Again, I don't know if that will result in more W's than last year because they've got an incredibly tough schedule this year. But I do think as a product, they'll be more competitive. At least, how can I describe this? Because you could say they were competitive in a lot of games last year because they lost a bunch of games by 6 points or less, right? Didn't feel like they were competitive because their offense was not competitive. Their defense made them competitive. Special teams in the offense were awful. But I do think it'll be competitive and more fun on Sundays. So there's that. All right, I'm going to head out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be on 98.5 The Sports Hub tomorrow, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. on NBC Sports Boston as well. Simulcast, myself and Tim McCone. I'll be back here on Friday at 4 p.m. live to react to what happens tomorrow night. Like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Pods. Don't forget to rate and review. This has been the Nick Cattle Show. I appreciate every single one of you.